COPD, or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, is the third leading cause of death worldwide. It destroys your lungs from the inside out, slowly impairing your ability to breathe. Other symptoms and diseases arise in your body until one day your heart gives out, or the cancer caused by COPD finally gets you, or a myriad of other painful and sad ways to go take their toll. Asthma, on the other hand, kills less than 4,000 people a year. To put that in perspective, you've got a 0.0012 chance that you'll die from it. That means that you're more than 100 times more likely to live to be 100 than to die of asthma. So this begs the question, how do trained professionals who've gone through many years of medical school confuse the two? Asthma and COPD have continued to be terribly mismatched diagnoses in the medical community, estimating that 1 out of 5 patients are misdiagnosed with asthma when in reality they have COPD. This has to do with the similarity of symptoms, speaking nothing to the severity of the cause. But first, it's important to define what COPD is. COPD has many different types, but the end-all be-all of it is that it's a deterioration and destruction of your lungs. For example, if you have chronic bronchitis, then your bronchial tube lining will be inflamed, which causes the production of mucus. The bronchial tube brings air to the alveoli, hence its importance. Emphysema, on the other hand, destroys the alveoli's air sacs, which causes them to break and lose their strength. But asthma is simply more narrow airways. This results in swelling and production of mucus. What can occur, however, are asthma attacks. Asthma attacks are bronchospasms, which are the tightening and constriction of airways. Unfortunately, scientists' way of testing for each condition can be very similar. The most common test uses a bronchodilator, which measures a person's full expiratory volume, forced vital capacity, and their proportion to each other. In scientific literature and methodology, the accepted standard is that above a 0.70 forced expiratory volume over forced vital capacity, which I'll refer to from now on as FEV over FVC, is considered a non-COPD patient. Where this causes a problem is that asthma can also lower patients' FEV over FVC. Researchers are trying to come up with new ways that doctors can create a differential diagnosis for COPD. In this article, a study was done to compare the efficacy of TC99 DTP aerosol scintigraphy to a spirometry test in determining COPD and asthma. An aerosol scintigraphy test measures the alveolar clearance of your lungs, which is a much better representation of how well your lungs are functioning. The researchers' null hypothesis was that there would be no difference in effectiveness, but it was predicted that scintigraphy would be more effective. The reason scintigraphy would be more effective is due to its ability to differentiate better between asthma and COPD, and therefore not show false positives for asthma when in fact the actual diagnosis should be COPD. The researchers recruited subjects for 4 groups: subjects with COPD, subjects that had COPD and smoked, subjects with asthma, and subjects that had asthma and smoked. Once divided, each subject underwent regular procedure for the spirometry tests, which is the norm for hospitals and doctors. Then they would undergo the aerosol scintigraphy test. Once done, the researchers would compare the results of the tests and see if there was a clear, better option. The mean values for the aerosol scintigraphy and the spirometry tests of the non-smoking COPD patients were significantly lower than that of asthma patients. The values were 40.6 with a margin of error of 14.3, 62.3 with a margin of error of 18.7, and that was done with a p-value of 0.02. The cap value was significantly higher in non-smoking COPD patients. And while there were no statistically insignificantly difference between control and asthmatic groups at the scintigraphic parameters and spirometric parameters, the mean of the values, cap value, and spirometric parameters were statistically significant between control and COPD groups. There isn't much to discuss with this, as there remains a fairly straightforward and easy conclusion. The scintigraphy had the ability to diagnose COPD, and it did not show false positive in asthma. The spirometric tests were very good at diagnosing COPD in relation to a non-smoking asthmatic. However, according to the spirometric tests, a smoking asthmatic patient would show heavy signs of COPD. The null hypothesis that there was no difference in effectiveness was incorrect, Therefore, the alternative hypothesis that scintigraphy would be more effective is correct. This shows that the aerosol scintigraphy is clearly the better choice when using a differential diagnosis of COPD.